The Rates and podcast. This is our last podcast for the year. We're taking a couple of weeks off we have to paint the studio and do a little bit of plumbing, and I'll send you some updates of what we're doing to it so you'll see. And our guest tonight is Rick Gobbell. Rico is running a little late again. He got involved with something, trying to deliver some loads for Christmas. And Rick Gobbell, who is a safety and compliant expert, and I can vouch for his expertise because when I was working over at Traffics, I used Rick's excellent services many times, and we got to know each other quite well. Rick has been a guest on our show a number of times, and he's always got great information. One of the most fascinating things about Rick, besides for how much he knows, is just his experience. Rick, you started before you went to the ICC or the Tennessee State Department of Safety, was it?
Yeah, I worked for about everybody that regulated trucking industry for about 35 years, Chuck.
Wow. So what year you got out of college, and what year did you start in the trucking industry?
My dad and my granddad were both in the trucking business. I never had a real chance at normal life. Dad was an owner-operator with McLean. He got up to 3 trucks one time, and he decided he needed to own as many trucks as he could drive at one time. So we kind of got down to one. Well, I finished college in 72, and I went to work for the state in 73, checking trucks down there about mile marker 50, back 50 miles east of Memphis. And then, of course, I also had a patrol car, so we worked all in West Tennessee. And then I went from there to the Interstate Commerce Commission. So I went there in 75. Then I went from there, stayed up there a couple of years, and went to Federal Highway Administration Office of Motor Carrier Safety. And I stayed there 20 years until they created the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration in 2000. And then I was division administrator when they created it. And then I stayed there to 2007, and I retired, and I've been doing consulting work for 16 years, so 17 almost now. But anyway, never had a real chance in normal life. Like I said, I've always been around trucking one side to the other. I've always been a big advocate for the trucking industry, a big advocate for our drivers. I think that we wear them out. We've created a situation where we just can't recruit drivers anymore. I don't know if we're totally the cause of that, but we sure hadn't helped any. And I still say we. Every once in a while I'll be talking to one of my old Federal Highway people and Federal Motor Carrier Safety people, and they'll remind me that we ain't we no more. You're retired. And I always have to remind them that I must still be we, because y'all send me a check every month. Of course, they don't care for that too much, you know.
That's their problem, not yours. You know what? I think the trucking industry as a whole is lucky to have you available as a consultant, because you have you've certainly been able to help an awful lot of motor carriers out there. So my first question tonight, I want to ask you, there was a lot of talk a couple of years ago about desktop audits.
Yeah.
What have
well,
they done?
You know, me and Hank Seaton, me and your buddy Hank, my buddy Hank, we proposed at the FMCSA. You know, we have so many trucking companies, Chuck, that we can never get around to. And I'm just going to give you a simple example. When I was the division administrator in Tennessee for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, I had about 24,000 trucking companies based in the state of Tennessee, 24,000. And I had 7 investigators. Now, you imagine how long it's going to take them 7 investigators to get around to 20-something thousand trucking companies. We never going to get around.
Thousands of years, Rick.
Yeah. I mean, by the time we get to it, we can never get around. But if we did, half of them be our business time we got around to be all that many more new ones, you know. So me and Hank proposed that we could set up a company and go in and do desktop audits on small trucking companies and see whether or not they had drug and alcohol testing, whether or not they had driver qualification files, whether or not they had vehicle maintenance files, and pretty simple little audit, and issue them at least some sort of satisfactory or some kind of ratings where the agency wouldn't have all these unrated motor carriers or all these.
Right.
I've been doing some work recently trying to help some people get their ratings upgraded. One guy down in Memphis, Tennessee, has had a conditional rating since 2007. And anytime you look him up on SAFER or CSA SMS, it'll show he has a conditional safety rating. Guy trying to work with up in Iowa. We had trouble even getting a copy of a 2013 compliance review report. So what good is, the agency's first one to tell you the safety rating is a review and a snapshot in time.
Right.
Well, what good's a safety rating that is now almost 15, 16, 17 years old? It doesn't mean anything.
No.
But yet we
Either
got
way.
all cars out there sitting on them old audits, and then we got the vast majority, probably 90% of the carriers out there don't have a rating at all. So we need to do something. The agency so far has not been real receptive to our ideas. Somehow or another, they always want to hang on to what authority they have, and it's kind of frustrating to the industry that we can't get some of these things done that we really, really need to do. Let's either do audits on all of them or none of them. But this whack-a-mole we're doing is just not working. Our crashes keep going up. We got higher crashes now than we've ever had in history of fatal crashes.
Yeah.
And it's just what they're doing isn't working, but they don't want to admit that. And really, I don't think Congress knows what they need to do anymore.
Well, as far as Congress, unfortunately, you've got a bunch of politicians that don't know a truck from a bowling ball. No offense to them. I'm sure they know other things, but they certainly, for the vast majority of them, don't know anything about trucks. They've probably never driven a truck or probably never even ridden in a truck. And those people are making laws.
Well, then our regulators, and the term I've always used is they don't really know which end of a truck goes down the road first, But here you got all these regulators that have absolutely no background or experience in the trucking industry. They're book experts. I heard a guy say one time, I never have forgot this. It's talking about this fellow that was a doctor. He happened to be a fraternity brother of ours, and somebody said he's a doctor or a PhD. They said, oh, he's a PhD. Then he's a book doctor. So he wasn't no real doctor. He's a book doctor. So I think about that with all those regulators we hire, both in D.C. and in the division office. I mean, they're just book experts. They're not motor carrier experts.
Right.
And what is one of our old fellows used to say, they step over $1 to pick up a dime. And
yes.
I've always remembered that.
And I think that's pretty true for most government agencies. They spend $1 to pick up a dime. It's so true.
Yep.
Now, our crash rates are out to lunch right now. I've never, even before we initiated drug testing about 25 years ago now.
1980.
Is that when 1980 is when drug testing came in?
Yep. That's when we first started proposing it. We didn't get it fully implemented up in there. We put CDL in place in 1993.
Right.
So I was there when all that was done.
Because it seems like ever since drug testing came in, and I'm not a proponent of people taking drugs and driving trucks, believe me, because we grew up in that era, and a lot of people died of heart attacks and stuff, not just crashing trucks that it was so hard on them. But what the heck's going on now with the number of crashes? In your opinion, what do you think? Is it untrained drivers?
Well, if I was a division administrator, I used to say when I was the division administrator of Tennessee, if my fatal crashes went up one year, I blamed everybody but me. If my crashes went down, I took full credit. That seems to be the way the government operates, see, and we don't really know, Chuck. We've done every kind of study that you could do. We did the large truck crash causation study back in the 90s. I participated in that program. But when, like I told somebody the other day, when the government comes out and says, oh, we got a terrible problem with drugs in our industry. Well, let's fix that. Let's get a drug program. Oh, we got a terrible problem with hours of service in our industry. Oh, let's fix that. Let's do electronic logging devices. I mean, it just go from one thing to another. It sounds real good to the public, but at the end of the day, our crashes don't go down. And we continue to have these fatal crashes, and nothing's going to ever work. I mean, I don't know how we do it. We had an administrator one time that I thought was an idiot at the time, but time cures your thought process sometime. But he said something that I really liked, and I realized it. And he said, "We'll never be able to regulate these crashes away. We've got to engineer these crashes away."
Very,
And I will tell
yeah,
you, after he and he was with Federal Highway at that time, and we started putting those guardrails up around them viaducts
right.
where the concrete pillars come up middle interstates. We started putting breakaway light poles on the interstate instead of putting concrete round circles around them and cut a car in half. Now, we've done a lot of that. And I think as we progress with the technology, I mean, I don't want to go to driverless vehicles, but there's going to be a push for that. So everybody better get that in their mind. If they can ever demonstrate that these driverless vehicles are safer than a human being driving that vehicle, there ain't gonna be no human beings driving that vehicle except from where it gets off the interstate to a terminal or something. So that's really going to happen, and the agency knows that. But we again, until we can figure out what's causing these crashes, 90% of it's human error. 90% of it. It ain't over the hours. It ain't drugs. It's just human error. And as we've always said, and American Trucking Association's always said, 2/3 to 3/4 of the fatal truck crashes are not the trucking company's fault.
That's true. I agree with that. But the
But
other,
you
what
know,
the other 25% is, or the other, 1/3, whatever it is, and we have to figure out what's causing them, and I guess engineering them away, and we're doing that. I think with when you think of some of these newer trucks, and the number one, the creature comforts, and number two, the safety. The safety features these trucks have, the collision avoidance, the anti-lock brakes, all the things that that a truck is equipped with today, compared to when you and I started in the industry back in the early 70s. I just took delivery of an old truck I bought, an old B model Mac, and driving that thing off the float and putting it into my warehouse. My God, I realized how primitive that thing is, and how most of the drivers today couldn't last driving that thing because it's primitive compared to what we have today with airbags and all sorts of wonderful things, and lane departure systems, all sorts of things that have come. A lot of them have come out as a result of development of autonomous trucks, which, by the way, I think that all of the technology they're developing for autonomous trucks is helping them get safer, and putting less demands on the driver's skill set. But I don't think we are ever going to see a day when you drive your truck to the interstate and the driver gets out and another driver is going to pick it up 300 or 400 miles later down the road. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I really don't, because I don't think the lawyers are going to let it happen, because as soon as one of those trucks ends up in a fatality, my gosh, things are going to change. Like, whose fault is it at that point? Nobody wants to take ownership. That's the biggest one. I think the technology is probably there right now in a crude form.
but no doubt it's there now. Just little things. That smart cruise. My wife's car has that smart cruise. You can be going down the interstate, whatever you want to drive at speed, and you come up on another vehicle, that thing is not going to run over that vehicle in front of you. It's just amazing to me that we figured that out.
Yes.
And I'm sure that in time that's probably already on a lot of our trucks, and that. And the railroad, they used to have an issue with engines going to sleep while they're operating the train. Imagine, Chuck, that's one of the most boring jobs in the world. You don't steer it. The only thing you do is go forward or put the brakes on. That's all you can do on a train. So they come up with this dead man switch. Remember that?
Right. Yes.
And what the driver has to touch the throttle every so if he don't touch the throttle every so often, the engine will start to shut down. And if he gets sleep,
Right.
gets sleepier, he's going to sleep or something at the control. So that was a real good, and they just knew that was going to eliminate all those crashes, a lot of them crashes on the railroad. So what the drivers figured out real quick was that they could hang a coat hanger down from a ceiling that would touch that handle every so often, they could go to sleep. But see, you're always going to be able to, you're always going to be able to fool technology, and they'll do that. But we're trying. I mean, when you start talking about losing 5,400 lives a year in truck crashes, 5,400. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like old boy one time from Birmingham, he said, he talking about this one truck. If you line up all the bodies they had head to toe, it'd reach from Birmingham to the Gulf. But that's kind of true. You take 5,000 people, I don't know, 6 foot, 30,000, that's 6 miles of people killed head to toe.
5,000 people, we're talking about the size of a small town.
That's right. And if you think about it, if we were killing 5,000 people a year in airlines, if we was killing 5,000 people a year on railroads or waterways, there would be a public outcry. But as long as it's publicly acceptable to die in a crash on our nation's highway, we never totally control it. And I'm not sure we ever control it. We had that administrator one time that he had this great big goal. He got us all together, brought us up there in Washington, Tennessee. Listen to that, Washington, D.C. Where it ought to be down here in Tennessee. But anyway, that's another story. But he brought us all up there. Well, he had a zero fatality goal. Zero fatality goal. Oh, he popped it up. He put it out on all our website, put signs out, all that stuff. There is absolutely, under our current environment, that we can ever have a zero fatality. Never set a goal you can't reach. And you got to set goals that you can reach. But the agency got all these big plans. Nothing ever really happens. If it was a baseball team, we'd be changing the manager every year,
But you know what? I think his idea was good. I think you got to get people. We had the same thing where the company that I owned, and we were able to do it. We were able to operate very safely because we had a culture within our trucking fleet division of safety. The trucks got in. They got in all the time to get checked. Drivers did real circle checks because I would catch them. If I caught them, I would scream at them, and if guys made good money, and they would get fired if they did something stupid because we wouldn't tolerate it. And they knew that safety was so important to the company, and I was able to convey the fact that safety benefited them. Not only did they get home safe, but the fact that our insurance was more reasonable than our competitors, so we could pay them more. And because we had a really good safety rating, we could get certain customers that the bad carriers couldn't get. So I do think that if a company takes safety very serious, they'll make better choices with who they hire to begin with. That their drivers they won't hire somebody that has a questionable past. They'll
Chuck,
only
did you ever know a driver that got fired from a company because he was unsafe and didn't find a job down the road?
all the time. They all do. You know what? Some of the worst drivers I ever saw in my life ended up driving for somebody else, and that still puts your truck in danger.
Never saw one that got out of the industry. They just went back down to the next guy that would hire them. And now I'm not drivers about that. I think that you got to have a safety consultant, and you're exactly right. Your safety culture has to start at the top with top management and work down. That's what you got to do. That's the only way you can make it work. If you've got a culture of, okay, but it's a hot load, if you don't care, go ahead and go this time. And I always said if they did it one time, they did it 1,000. When I was an investigator, if they did it once or twice, they got the routine, they kept doing the same thing. I don't think we're doing that quite as bad as we once did with ELDs. Now, With ELDs, what we're finding is PC, personal conveyance, is a big issue, and they falsify. And I'm not on my drivers now because my dad was one, and I'm an advocate for my drivers. But if drivers are doing that and the company's not picking up on it, they're gonna keep doing it, just like anybody else would. PC's one, miles without hours. That's a big one. But here's the deal. Now we've done all this work on hours of service, Chuck. And then we turn around, Congress turns around and exempts out agriculture and livestock haulers.
Right.
The first 171 air miles from where they started. In other words, they can drive 171 miles, air miles, which may be 200 miles, road miles. None of those hours count toward the hours of service regulation. But once they get to that 171 miles, now the regulations kick in, they got 11 more hours to drive. So you're looking at 14, 15, 16 hour time now. So I keep saying, if you want to look at hours of service, compare it to something. Let's compare it to the ag haulers and the livestock haulers. Their accident rates are any higher or any lower than the general all the other carriers.
Right.
So they don't look at stuff like this. What they realize is with that, those drivers can drive until they get tired, and then because the regulations still say you can't run them tired. If they're tired, they get to take a break. Look at the LDs, you got to run if you're tired. So sometimes I wonder, back to my step over $1 to pick up a dime, is the ELDs helping or is it hurting? The drivers that I talk to says, man, it's killing me. He said, that machine makes me drive when I'm tired. I can't stop and take that 30-minute nap like my dad did, or an hour nap and then go on. I've got to go to get my 11 hours or my 14 hours in. So sometimes, while these regulations sound real, we need to go back and look at them sometime every now and then and see whether or not we need to change the regulations.
But nobody wants to do that. We've had all sorts of, everybody's worried they're going to upset somebody. And everybody we have leading that department, they're all going to set the world on fire. And ever since I can remember, I haven't seen very many set any worlds on fire.
Well, we have not had an administrator at the Federal Safety Administration. We had one administrator at the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and knew what he was doing, Joe Clapp. Joe Clapp come out of that company and up there for about a year. Joe's the only one we've ever had that has any motor carrier background. And I'm not complaining about those very smart folks. They get those jobs politically. But, I mean, being a lawyer, what kind of experience is that for being an administrator?
Doesn't teach you. I'd rather see a truck driver in there.
Well, almost. I wouldn't care. And I've said before that when King, the first thing I'm going to do is get in that 765 pages of regulation book. That book is 765 pages regulations. And I'm going to see how much of that stuff we need. Because auditors, to them, it's a book violation. It may or may not be a safety violation. CSA, who writes the out of service guidance, they call it a guidance, but go out there behind the scale and tell that guy sitting there and have his brakes replaced, you're not out of service, you're out of service to a guidance. He would understand that. And then why we let lieutenants, maybe a captain every now and then, that can't make policy in their own home state, go make national policy at CVSA. We got some real problems out there that we need to take a serious look at, because some of these out of service criteria that I look at, what's that got to do? What's that got to do with safety? And I used to go to them meetings, and I used to serve on a committee, and I found out real fast that you didn't have a choice. You didn't have a say if you was a naysayer. Because they talked about one taking this out of service, and I said, guys, according to 396.3, which says unsafe operation, then this has nothing to do with unsafe operation. It has nothing to do with likely causing a crash or a breakdown. Why are we making that out of service item? item. Well, it's the right thing to do. The things you hear when you get the bios of what's going on there, but what we do.
Do you think most of these inspectors do appreciate that these drivers they're up against a lot, especially the inspectors today? If they get a couple of tickets, infractions, it's going to affect their jobs. And there's a difference between a real serious one and a minor one. Do you think most of the guys understand that and they're giving the guys a break overall or not? You see a lot of stuff.
Well, words, once they enter that violation, that computer under Aspen's the software they use to cite violations. Once they enter that violation in that computer, it marks them out of service. There is no subjectivity left. Objectivity, yeah. Subjectivity. So he has no option. If they train him, look, I let the old boy go on and get it fixed later. He has a wreck. Guess who he's gonna come looking at? He's gonna come looking at you.
Okay.
You didn't follow the procedure. Now, are there quotas out there? Are these guys under quotas to write so many tickets, do so many? God, yes, they are. Anybody says is a what is a dog-faced liar? What is it that Joe has a pony something dog-faced liar? That's just there is no written quotas, but there is quotas. Guess who gets promoted? Guess who gets recognized with awards? The guys that write the most tickets, the guys that do the most inspections, the guys that put the most trucks out of service.
So there is, okay. So that's the quota system. All right.
Yeah.
So that gives
quota.
Now, how much credence do you put on for, how your first impression is the most important and you can't once you make a bad first impression, you're done. So how often do you think guys are getting pulled in because their trucks are dirty or their windshield is, the dashboard is covered with papers and all the rest of it? Is that usually a telltale sign to you if you're sitting in a scale house or inspection station? Is that the guy or girl you pull over?
He tried to take subjectivity away from them about just picking people that dirty truck and stuff. I went down to, I had the, when I was with, one of the last things I did with Federal Road Care Safety is we was building a new scale site down on I-6 South on the Alabama line. And I was very involved in building that, and getting that built and getting it the way we want it. I think we've come out with a beautiful facility down there. We got that useless pit. I thought the pit was useless. I still think they're useless today because officers don't like to use it. We'll do a few of them, but anyway, they got good technology now. We got technology where we infrared brakes coming up on the scales. If we see a cold brake, that's a good reason to inspect them. We've got the DOT, what is it called? Inspection system, ISS. CARES has been having a problem with this area of the regulation. Then when they come up on scales, we read their license plate. We know who that license plate belongs to, what carrier it belongs to. Or if not, we get their DOT number, tells us whether to inspect, option, or pass. So if we're using those like we're supposed to be using them, then that's the way it ought to be done. But I'm a great big believer. But you see a dirty truck, you go and inspect the dirty truck when a cleaning set went through right there. You're looking at one, it's pretty and clean, everything looks real nice and new. Then you look one behind them and it's a 1978 white Freightliner cab over, you're going to inspect the cab over, that's just what you're going to do. But I'm a great big believer that we ought to put in a random inspection system at our scale sites and not let these officers pick because I don't like it, old boy, I had a problem with him one time, or he's dirty, or I want it to be random. There's nothing wrong with being random. And then we'll be able to say, after we do them randomly sampling which ones we order, which ones we inspect, then we say specifically what the out of service rate is. But when you see a flat tire, you see whatever it looks like, which means I can start my inspection with a defect. That's what I'm going to do. Because if you're doing all these inspections, there's no defects, your boss is going to say, make it hard enough. You're not selecting the right vehicles or something.
Right.
I mean, we find no defects. So, but if we had a random selection, then those numbers will tell us what we need to be doing. Right now, they're skewed. They're skewed.
You know what's funny? I couldn't agree more with what you just said, because up here in Canada, we have, brake check week and safety week and CVSA week and all these weeks, and there'll be a blitz. And then we get on the news that out of the trucks that were stopped, 38% were out of service, and the public is all, oh my God, 38% of the trucks are out of service. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
And the point is that they're stopping the guys that are questionable operators, or they look questionable to start with. They never stop the guys that are good operators that they know. But that would really equal the playing field a little bit.
See, Chuck, I could argue, you take your mega carriers.
Yep.
They're inspected about 1/3 the rate that the small truckers are. You take a 10 truck, see that he gets inspected 15, 20 times a year, maybe even 30 times a year. That's one inspection per truck per year. You look at the mega carriers, they get about 0.25 inspections per truck per year. Now, the agencies will argue, well, we're focusing our resources on carriers we know have problems and not wasting our time on these carriers that don't have problems. How do you know? How do you know that? And I also can argue that by being me, as I'm a small trucker with 10 trucks, and you're tying up 30 of my trucks a year for 1 hour, that's an economic hardship. Why you inspect, whether you put me out of service or not, the mere fact you're inspecting me for an hour, take an hour out of my time. Well, I don't know what the cost of a truck is per hour now, but I bet you somewhere in the neighborhood of $100. So you inspect 3,000, 300, you check 30 of my trucks a year. That's what, $3,000.
Yeah.
That you're costing me out of my pocket. So anyway, I tell you what I can do. You give me a subject.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Both ways.
Well, there he is, finally home from the road.
No, we still sitting in the cockpit, but I've been listening in. I've been listening in the whole time. So Rick, I got a couple of questions for you. Some things that I've been hearing, and I definitely would like to see what your take is on it. But I've been hearing that they're supposed to be doing a study with the shippers when it comes to detention times. And just trying to see what your take on that whole situation was, how that may or may not affect safety and hours of service. Uh-oh, did you hear me?
I heard you. Rick? You know, it's funny you say that, Rico, because when they were talking about electronic logbooks, Peter DeFazio, who was a politician from Oregon, I think he was a Democrat, he said, we can't do these electronic logbooks until we fix the problem at shippers and receivers. He had the foresight to figure that out where nobody did. They also fixed the parking problem. He recognized that one too, and we're still struggling. It's got to be, 10 or 15 years now. And we're still struggling with both parking and detention at shippers and receivers.
Right. Did we lose Rick?
Well, I see him. Rick, can you hear us? He's sideways.
We've been having a couple of small technical issues, and we're trying a new format tonight, ladies and gentlemen. This is why we kind of shows us stacked up on each other. We finally got Instagram to be able to allow us to be able to stream live again. So hopefully you guys are seeing us on Instagram. Actually, I got the notification that it is live on Instagram. So this is the way we had to optimize the screen for us to be optimized to be able to go on Instagram. So hopefully we got a little bit more we're getting a little bit more participation from that. So if you ladies and gentlemen would do us a huge favor, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you do that so that we can kind of get into the YouTube algorithm and everything else. Rick, I don't think Rick can hear me. Let me try something. Let me try and refresh and see if that helps us out. Hold on 1 second.
There's Rick. Okay, how's that?
I have sound. Rick, do you have sound, Rick?
Your sound is actually better right now, Rico.
I figured it probably would have been if I refreshed it. Let me see. I'm trying to see if there's something that I can do to help Rick. There's nothing on this.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a good way to end the year. It's been not a bad year for rates and lanes. I think we've done better, unfortunately, really, than the trucking industry. I wish it was the other way around, in all honesty, but it's the way it is. But it'll come back. I've read enough stuff, and hang in there, boys and girls. It's going to be another. It'll be probably the last quarter of next year when things start kicking back in.
I don't know. Let's see. I'm still trying to see. Rick, say something if you can hear us, Rick, because we can see you, but we can't hear you. Man, I had a couple of questions I wanted to get off at Rick as well, because it was.
Hang on.
Hold on. I think I might have heard something. Hold on a second. No. Okay, maybe he's going to try to come back in.
I hope so.
Hopefully he tries to come back in. Also, ladies and gentlemen, you can participate into the podcast. All you have to do is type your question into the box, and we can you can ask your question that you may or may have. We'll try to make sure that we weave it into the conversation. Hey, Rick, are you back with us?
I'm back. Sorry, guys.
Oh, good.
Okay. Good deal. So my question was, Rick, the study of that they're supposed to be doing the study about shippers and shipping times and how that affects hours of service and safety. I wanted to see if you had any thoughts pertaining to that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we hear you.
You're coming in loud and clear. We can hear you, Rick. Go ahead, Rick. Can you hear us? I'm not sure how we keep losing. Not sure how we keep losing Rick, losing his audio. Man, I hope I didn't come in and jinx the whole program and y'all was doing fine before I come.
Well, he was talking. We had a three-way conversation going for a minute, so it can't be just you.
So yeah, I've got the question that I have. I'm really curious to see if we can get Rick's audio squared away. I'm really curious to see what he has to say about that, and also just from an anecdotal standpoint, just being out here on the road, I have definitely seen. And ladies and gentlemen in the audience, you guys kind of tell me what you guys see, because my my viewpoint is sort of limited. I'm only in about 3 to 4 states, but I definitely have seen increased presence and enforcement when it comes to DOT actually being out here on the road, inspecting and just doing random pulls as well.
It's funny, Rico, up in Canada, I think, now I'm not driving a truck full time, but I can tell you on the roads, it looks like there's a hell of a lot less enforcement now than there was before. And I would equate that to there's so much police presence being used in other, with the war and with the Hamas war, there's so many protests on all sides now. And they've got to send police to each one. There's only so many police up here in Canada.
Is that right?
Yeah. So driving has gotten worse. I went to Toronto and back today, which is only it's an hour each way at the most. And I got to tell you, I came in and I was beat just because, and I said to my wife, it wasn't the time spent, it was the how bad drivers are right now.
All right.
Rick,
you back with us again? I can see his audio moving. Hey, Rick. I think he's trying to get his setup together. Hey, Rick.
We're hearing the background noise. We're not hearing you.
Uh-oh. Man, I feel like I came in and sabotaged everything.
No, not at all.
Yeah, there's a couple of we probably gonna have to try to maybe get Rick back on. I don't because we're getting close. We're about 10 minutes left in the show, and I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to get him back on. But I had a couple of burning questions that I definitely wanted to bounce off of him to see what he had heard and see what may have been coming down the pike on a national level, because I'm hearing some things where you guys started out from about every carrier they're trying to push to to rate every single carrier, and how the trouble is, how are you going to pull that off?
Rick, can you hear us? But Rico, if the shippers and the brokers and the insurance companies are all going to use a rating system, then I don't care how they do it. I think that the government has to facilitate that. And whether it's third-partying desktop audits or whatever the hell they have to do, they've got to be able to do it. Rick said it beautifully at the beginning of the show. You can't, all an audit is, it's a snapshot in time, and a 13 or 15 or 17-year-old snapshot isn't worth anything. None of us look the same way we did 13 or 15 or 17 years ago. None of our businesses look the same. You may have had a really good run, or you may have had a real bad run, where, you went 5 years without ever having anything happen, and you may have had a bad year. Who knows? But I think we have to do better on that if we're going to still use some sort of a carrier rating. It's ridiculous right now. And I think that my personal opinion is, since we are using a rating system, if you have to charge the carrier for getting an audit, if the carrier has to pay it, according to the size, you do desktop audits. Because I got to tell you, as a carrier, I would have gladly have paid, $1,000 or so to get an audit, so I could have a fresh audit for my customers when they asked. You know, this could be a win-win for everybody.
Right.
Rick, if you can hear us, say something. No, you're muted. You didn't press mute, did you, by any chance?
Yeah, I asked him did he hit mute, but I don't know. I don't know if he did or what's going on. Man, I feel bad. I feel like I'm like I said, I feel like I came in.
No, you know what it may have been? It might be the whole Instagram thing.
Technology is great when it works. So.
I know.
Definitely.
It's funny. I had a problem the other day logging into auction time, and 3 people tried to help me, and it was their system that was flawed.
Right.
You know, that happens.
So, okay, so he's reaching out. So, yeah, I'm not sure. So maybe we better, so he's texting now. He's saying that he's got a poor connection at his house. So maybe what we'll do is, let's talk about, Chuck, in our closing minutes here, let's talk about the schedule. Wait a minute. Let's see. Say something to us, Rick. See if we got audio. He popped back in for a second. No, it looks like he may be frozen. He dropped out again.
We're playing hide and seek with Rick Gobbell.
Yeah. So not quite the way we wanted to end off the year, but let's talk about scheduling as far as next year is concerned. I think I think when we spoke earlier, of course, this was going to be the last show of the year.
Yes, it is.
We're going to try to get back after it, maybe the second week of January.
Yeah, January 9th is our first week. I know we're on the 16th. We've got Dr. Manera is coming on to talk, because I thought it was a really good idea to have somebody from the medical side come on, because January, a lot of us gain weight over the holiday. People are more prone to get sick. All sorts of stuff happens because of the holiday. So I thought and then a lot of people join gyms. So a lot of people want to get fit. So I thought it'd be a really good idea to bring somebody from the medical profession on, especially that is devoted to the trucking industry the way he is.
Yeah. Okay, so that sounds good. I want to, so definitely homework for our listeners and viewers. If you guys would help us out, send us some feedback. Give us some ideas, some different things that you would like to hear us talk about, some experts that you would like for us to bring on to the show. I'm thinking about, Chuck, maybe we might be able to reach out to the guys over at the Blue Book and see if we can maybe able to get somebody on from over there, the Blue Book Services.
Well, yeah, that'd be a good idea. And the other one that I'm working on is I'm trying to get somebody from either International or Scania to come on to talk about that new engine they're coming out with in International trucks. There was, after last week's show, there was a hell of a lot of interest on that particular subject. I think right now people are so bloody frustrated with the equipment that they're running and just the unscheduled downtime. And it doesn't matter what make of engine you're running, it's all the same. And people are hoping that this Scania engine is, because it's so different than anything else, that it's going to be different. I hope it is.
Yeah, I tell you, ever since the introduction of all the different after treatment systems and everything to the diesel engines, it's gotten a little bit improved, but it's still terrible.
You know what? You see it every single day on the highways. New trucks, like fairly new trucks, the side of the road. and being towed. And a fellow I know down the road here that runs a heavy wrecker service, he used to do a lot of truck wrecks. He doesn't do them at all now. He said he's got his hands full just pulling new trucks off the road.
That's a terrible. I tell you, that's pathetic. But
you know what? Why wait for a call from the police or a truck owner that trucks upside down in the middle of the highway? This way, your work is all scheduled for your drivers. It works great for everybody, and they're moving so many of them.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you would do us a huge favor, like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend about the show. If you, I know it's the holiday season and all that good stuff, and I know you might be out buying electronics. If you don't mind, help us out when you're giving away those electronics. Just go on to our YouTube channel and go ahead and subscribe us from the person that you're giving the electronics to. That way you can help us out in the algorithm and help us get out to a broader audience. We'll take it any way we can to get subscribers onto the YouTube channel. Right.
Yeah, and you know what? I just want to remind our listeners that Rico and I do this for nothing else than a way of giving back. We've been told and asked, and to monetize this show, and we've decided we don't want to, because then it becomes something we have to do. We don't want to do, and Rico and I want to do this show. It's not a way of earning extra revenue. It's a way of just giving back to the trucking community.
Absolutely. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we want to wish everyone happy holidays out there. I'm sorry, Chuck, I don't know if you want to tell people how to get in contact with you, because you get ready to go on holiday again, right?
Yes, I am. Well, no, I got to fix the office, man. I got to paint, and I got it looks like we got a little bit of tech work to do during the holidays. But listen, if anybody needs me for anything, reach out to me on email, chucksnow280@outlook.com. Leave your phone number. Now, I am going to be out of the country for a couple weeks, but I'm probably going to take my computer with and have access to emails and stuff. But I will get back to you as soon as I can. And with that being said, I want to wish all of our listeners a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and a Happy Holiday to those that don't celebrate Christmas. And we all celebrate New Year's, I think. And I wish everybody profitability, safety, and good health for 2024. Rico, with that, I'll let you back her in a hole for another week.
Absolutely. Well, this is definitely going. We're wrapping for the year. Hopefully, everybody, as we always say, we want you guys to make sure that you stay safe, stay healthy out there. Keep your head up. I know that this has been this year in trucking has been a tough time in trucking. Please keep your head up. Try your best to stay positive. Enjoy. If you're taking time off for the holidays, enjoy the important things, your family, your friends, and be grateful that, hey, it may not be exactly where you want to be, but you still out here trucking. So keep on trucking, ladies and gentlemen. Keep it.
And it's going to get good again, ladies and gentlemen. And Rico, I said it wrong. I said, let you back in the hole for another week. I'm going to let you back in the hole for another year, buddy.
Yeah, we've been after it for a little while now. Thank you.
Yeah.
But, ladies and gentlemen, we want you, just like I say, stay safe out there, everybody. Keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise. God bless you. Good night. Happy New Year. All that good stuff. And we'll see you guys into the new year. God bless you and good night.
Catch you on the flip-flop. God bless and Happy New Year.